Welcome to the Love is Our Nature podcast, where we discuss all things ranging from love, relationships, authenticity, fulfillment, to lessons from plant medicine journeys, inner healing, and living your truth. I'm not your teacher, I'm only your fellow student. Occasionally, you also get to hear some of my own healing process and journey back to love. The point of the program? That you take away at least one actionable piece of knowledge that supports you in expanding whatever aspect of your life your heart most desires. My name is Cesar Rodriguez. I will be your host, and I am honored to have you here. Happy listening. Here we are again, part 3 of the special feature with Ellanah Fawcett in the Love is Our Nature podcast. And surprise, we're having a baby. As you can tell from the photo and the episode. So we left that a little bit suspenseful in the last episode. Where we left off was... We told the story of how we came together, both like our internal process and also what happened, right? What happened and how we came together. So now here we are, and we're having a baby.
Yeah.
Are you excited?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a big topic. We figured like this will be its own episode in and of itself. There's few things we would love to share about that. On one side, creating the foundation in our own relationship for it to be the foundation that we would both want for our little one to come into, and also like what that's been like for us individually, the process of discovering that we're going to be parents, and it happening 3 months into our relationship. So here we are. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah. Feels nice to share. It's such funny in the last 2 podcasts. In some ways, it was difficult to speak about things and life without sharing about this, because it's such a huge part of life and who we are and who we're becoming. And like, I don't know about you, but definitely for me, like it almost feels strange to kind of speak about the journey without this, because now it feels like everything has been leading up to this. It's like all the practices,
everything what
in life.
Oh wow.
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. I've experienced it as the most beautiful and intense ceremony that I think I've ever experienced, right? It's like the most, I don't know, like sat in so many different meditation retreats with different plant spirits and all of these things, and nothing has been such a deep, intense cellular transformation, death, rebirth as this has been so far. We haven't even reached the birthing portal yet,
right? Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. And for the record, we're 24 weeks as of today, as of yesterday, 23. And yeah, I remember, we just how long ago was it? About a week and a half that we shared publicly in social media that we're having a baby. And I remember you saying that you actually had like a little hiatus from social media, because before we were sharing publicly with people, like you didn't really have much else to share on social media, because it was pretty much all encompassing in your life, the pregnancy process. And yeah, I mean, I could definitely start there, that it has completely transformed for me the understanding, the view that I had about what it is for a woman to be pregnant, to watch you
in this process from the very beginning, right? So I want us to get into that and give you an opportunity to share a bit more about that, and maybe that supports other women as well that might be either early in the pregnancy process or looking or about to go into the pregnancy process. But I guess before we go into that, for the sake of the narration of the whole thing, we could kind of pick up a little bit from where we left off, which was, what did I say? What date today was? By the way, we're July 16. So yeah, 23 months pregnant. Weeks, not months.
That would be a very, very long pregnancy. Oh,
and a very large baby. So yeah, we left off where we basically got together. Right, it was. I remember it was an eclipse, so it was like November 18th or 19th.
Yeah, very mystical night.
Yeah, November 18th.
We had our first kiss under the light of the big full moon.
Yeah,
full
very
moon
beautiful.
Eclipse.
Very beautiful. Yeah, that was in Posada Natura when you went to visit Darren and I along with Annabelle, and then you went back that week. Darren and I did Authentic Relating Part 2. Then we went back to Santa. We knew we were leaving Santa at the end of December, and that was an interesting concept for me because I knew something was going to change. I didn't know how it was going to change, but I knew that we weren't going to be in such close proximity anymore, right? So it was a beautiful time, that month and a half. Yet that month and a half between November 18th and the end of December, you went on a 2-week trip with your dad and your brother, right? And I was gone for 10 days for Christmas. This was in a different time than while you were gone. So right off the bat, that was almost 4 weeks in that maybe 6-week period where we were apart. So it was, it felt like there was like the time we had was a bit scarce for me, you know, and that was okay. I remember being so happy with this beautiful new connection that I was like, however it goes is perfect. Whatever she needs, like whatever space she needs, whatever plans she has, I want to support them. Right. And yeah, I didn't have like such a sense of urgency because I knew, even though I didn't know how things were going to change, I knew things were going to last definitely beyond the point of me and Darren moving south.
But I feel like our souls kind of decided in that time too. Like we did have a choice. Like it kind of like there was so much going on and that was about to be a great big distance, and like mentally it would have been much easier to just be like, oh, this was lovely, and like I'm gonna be with my family now, and you're gonna go be with yours, and then move, and then that's just like, but there was some kind of energetic thing that I remember feeling like this importance of like, wow, okay, I haven't seen my family for a long time, but I feel like it's so important actually in this time to create the space to still nurture this connection that's just come. It's just appeared.
Yeah. I remember being very grateful for that because even though you had a busy agenda with your brother and your dad who were visiting in Costa Rica, you'd still make time to see me here and there. Right? So that was beautiful. And I remember one day asking you, hey, so when I moved down south, would you come visit? I think that was the first time we brought that up, like what's going to happen once we move. And you were like, you said, well, what, do you remember that, by the way? You said, yeah, I would want to come see you. And I was like, oh, okay, good. So, so yeah, I mean, it sounds a bit silly because in a way, I think we both felt that was very obvious, right? That we'd come visit each other. It's interesting to think back and feel into those times and to feel what a strong bond we had. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a very strong bond early on. It was like, of course we're going to go see each other. And we did. Is there anything you want to say about those early days in Santa before I left to Miami?
I feel like you covered things beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did make sure I kind of gave it all I got too, because I knew it was a short time before I was leaving. So
yeah, you took me on the most magical date of my life.
Oh, which one was that? Oh, the horseback riding one.
Yeah, with the
and then dinner.
beach dinner.
You were so beautiful. How appreciative you were. That's one thing I really love about you is how appreciative you are. When we got to that dinner, that it was just us at the beach and this beautiful setup that a lovely friend of ours helped us create. I could just see in your face like how much you appreciated that, and that made it all worth it for me.
Incredibly thoughtful and creative. It was very special.
Yeah. Yeah, poetry also came through me in a way that I never felt before. So yeah, that was interesting. Did you like my poetry?
I loved your poetry. Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
It was very special.
I remember thinking, like, I can't give her these poems. They're like way too cheesy, way too over the top. She's gonna think I'm a cheese ball.
No, I love cheese. Well, I don't actually love cheese, but I love cheese. I like
cheesy romance.
Cashew cheese.
Cashew cheese romance. Yeah, they really came from the heart. So maybe one day we'll share the poetry. And so then, right, I went to Miami for 10 days, spent Christmas with my family, spent Christmas with your dad and your brother in Costa Rica. I came back with 2 days before New Year's, 2 days to basically just pack everything in Santa and move out. We had to be out of there by the end of December. And we also created an event for New Year's Eve with Darren down south. So it was a busy time. It was an epic event. And I was happy that you made it too. And you got to be there the very first night out at our new house in Londres, which was beautiful. Yeah, wow, there's a lot in that time. I just thought back to what it was like for me to really want to honor you as well physically, now that I'm talking about spending the night together, and how that was even a bit of a journey for me, because I had just been celibate for 6 months and still abstinent for like 12 months. So really, you could call it celibacy for a year, and I had this commitment of creating a deep connection with a partner. And if you listen to some other of my podcasts, you'll learn more about that, maybe especially episode 4, where that commitment was created, that I wasn't going to be involved with anyone sexually until I knew I could honor the divinity in my own body and see and honor the divinity in a partner. And that's why, well, when I met you, like I totally saw this sense of divinity in you, all this incredible beauty, and that's why at the beginning something wanted me to take my time. when it comes to like nurturing the relationship, the connection, to really create that depth. So I think we said that in the last episode. I just walked you to your cabin, right? And I think it wasn't, but I wasn't till like about a month and a half that we finally connected sexually, and that took something for me to kind of get to that point, because at first it was like, wow, when I see all the divinity in you, it puts me in a place where like I don't know how to interact with that in the physical realm. And I think I shared with you in meditation how when I meditated on that, somehow it's like I asked something or someone in my meditation, like, how do I honor her how do I honor her divinity in the physical realm? And an answer came. It said, you stay aware of her divinity. And I respond saying, okay, but when I stay aware of her divinity, I'm in awe and I feel worthless. Not just worthless, but like almost like who I am isn't a match for that, you know. And then it responded and said, I will take you being aware of the divinity in you as well. So needless to say, that created like a whole new paradigm for me when it came to sexual connection, because it was pretty much that where I saw the divinity in you and then got in touch with that sense of divinity in myself and just remained there when we would connect in that way. So is there anything you want to say about that? I didn't say to you that we were going to be talking about sex in this episode, but I guess that's where it went.
Yeah, well, I definitely felt that and continue to feel that, and it was actually very beautiful. I don't know if I shared in the last episode. I think I did a little bit about my own journey with celibacy, which was really like refining my sense of yes and no around what I allow beyond like my walls, essentially. And the energy that you shared was exactly what I was trying to refine my senses to, of like, no, it's a no unless it's that, unless it's like a deep realization of the divinity within each of us, and that coming into union through the physical body is about so much more. And unless the hearts are connected, then it's a no. And I remember the first time you shared with me what you just shared, and I was like, oh wow, yes. Like that's exactly what I feel and what I strive to connect with each time. And this feels incredibly beautiful and like blessing filled, actually, to be with someone where I know we share the same intention, which opens up an incredible field of possibility and exploration.
Yeah.
And support.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely was just like a beautiful space that got created like that, a beautiful connection. And it's no wonder a baby soul was just like, I want in. Somehow a baby just snuck in. Yeah, I mean, we all know how babies are made, but I don't know if there's much to say about that.
Sometimes they just really, really, really want to come in, and it doesn't matter how careful you are. It's like sometimes they're just very, very strong, and they're like, no, like this is my window, like I'm coming in.
Yeah.
Be ready, because I'm going to change everything. And I've been waiting for you both.
Yeah.
And like...
Yeah. And it's funny you said those exact words, because the exact sensation that I got when I was driving to you after you gave me the news and I saw the scarlet macaws. So maybe we'll get to that point now, and I'll pick up about the scarlet macaws. So I went to Londres. You were there for a couple of days, which was beautiful. And then you left back, and then we kind of just took turns visiting each other every week and a half or two. So it was nice. We were actually seeing each other quite frequently. But I think we were both kind of feeling like it was taking a toll to do all that driving, right? It's a 5-hour drive, including the ferry ride. And it basically takes like the best part of your day to just make the drive. So then you were supposed to come down for
your birthday.
My birthday on March 15th.
Well, I hadn't been feeling very well.
Yeah, you hadn't been feeling very well. It was March 14th, when the day before my birthday, you were supposed to come down so you could be with our little crew in Londres.
And I had this interesting feeling that I wasn't meant to drive down. And then when I left work that morning, I came out of class and I had a flat tire. And I was like, oh no, I have to drive just like the little short way down the road to get the tire fixed, did the mechanics and changed. And I just like felt that as a sign that I wasn't meant to go.
And your period also
was a week late.
Yeah.
And it had like a few signs, but life had been very busy and I actually hadn't felt. It's funny, I'd felt baby spirits before in my life and I hadn't felt one with us. And I wonder if it's because of the distance and the busyness in life. And I actually had a dream about that 2 nights after conception, that I gave birth to a little baby, but I was too busy to really be there for it. And something told me on the way home, like, just get a test. And I've never taken a test before in my whole life, like ever.
Pregnancy test.
Which friends were like, what? You've never taken a pregnancy test? I was like, no. And and then I got home and I was home alone, which I'm actually quite grateful for, to go into that experience by myself. It would have been beautiful if you were there, but like, to not have lots of people around. And I peed on the stick.
That's how it works.
And then it actually, the second line started appearing very fast. I was like, oh, okay, wow. I need to phone Caesar. I'm definitely not driving down south.
And did you cry? Did you laugh?
Yeah. Went between hysterical laughter and hysterical tears.
Yeah, and you called me. It's too bad I missed the call. I just left the house, and that didn't have signal in that area in Londres. So it was until the restaurant that I was like, hey, I'm just having lunch. Should I step aside, call you, or wait till I get home? Because you text me saying to call you, that it was important, right? So you were like, oh no, once you get home would be nicer. And I think that whole lunch, I had the feeling like something's going on. I think
I warned you in my text message.
Yeah, you wanted
I tried to
me.
make it like, not like clear what was happening, but just be prepared.
Yeah, I think I got that from your text message. So when I called you back, you were like, hey, so I'm not gonna come today, and I have some news. We made a little human. We were on video, and yeah, I was like, what? Really? You're like, yeah, happy birthday.
I think you cried then.
Yeah, then I started crying a little bit of crying and laughing from me as well. And I was just like, whoa. I looked at the time. I was like, well, no, don't worry about coming, and I'm gonna go to you. So I saw that I had time to hop on the 3 p.m. ferry, I think, if I left in 30 minutes. So I packed my things in 30 minutes, said bye to everybody. To Darren, Paula, Justice, Leanna, give them all a hug. I was, I think, a bit of an emotional mess with all of them. So it was, I'm sure they all recall those experiences fondly. And then I had the whole drive to just think. And the hour and a half drive to the ferry, well, no, 2.5. Passing Hako, that's where I was like, wow, how did this happen? You know, and again, like, obviously it happened biologically the way it happens, but still, like, how did it get to this point with us that it happened now? And I remember thinking, after doing the math for about an hour, like, maybe it's divinely ordained. And because I started seeing how certain events, certain things led to our connection, and also the even tantric practice that I had started taking on for myself, and how that also played into a shift in how I would operate and show up sexually, and I was like, okay, well, that definitely had something to do with it, and I was like, wow, maybe all that is still this, like, some force beyond me that has been guiding me throughout my whole time in Costa Rica, and now in this relationship with you. And I said to myself, maybe it's divinely ordained. And in that moment, I saw the 2 scarlet macaws, and I looked around. Nobody saw this beautiful pair of birds flying towards a tree. And just as you said, you know, the baby spirit was waiting for us. There was a 3rd scarlet macaw waiting for the other 2, and the other 2 just arrived and perched themselves up on the tree right next to the 3rd scarlet macaw that was already there. And I was like, whoa.
And scarlet macaws are always in pairs. It's very rare. They mate for life, so they need a partner, and it's usually it's rare to see them in a tree.
Yeah, and I'm usually not one that's too quick to make things mean something and signs and whatnot, but something about that was just like, yeah. So I guess it's also important to note that during our time in Santa Teresa, before I left South, we also spoke about, like, okay, well, what were to happen if, oh no, not during Santa Teresa, after I left South and we were visiting each other, before we found out about the pregnancy, we had talked about, like, what would we do if we wound up pregnant? And we both quickly and easily agreed that we would keep the baby. Right? So now it happened, like, this was like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks later after that conversation almost. And I think we both just knew that, okay, well, we're keeping the baby. And yeah, the whole journey began. I don't even know where to go from there.
Well, then after driving up, you stayed and you moved in for the time to San Isidro.
Oh yeah, I was like, okay, well, I want to be with you. It felt like a special time that I wanted to share with you. And at the same time, I think I was in a little bit of a scarcity mentality as well in regards to our relationship. And that was a process for me, if I'm completely honest. I might sound selfish, but I remember feeling like suddenly I was being robbed of our romantic relationship. Like, before we know it's not going to be just me and you anymore, and for some reason I felt like all these beautiful things that in my mind I guess my mind had already constructed, like all of a sudden, like that wasn't going to happen anymore, you know. And why it became quite a process too is because that's when it's pretty much right around the time that you found out that physically it started hitting you.
I think I had about a week of being semi-okay, like still teaching yoga and like, okay, I have blossoming life in my womb.
Oh yeah.
This is beautiful. And then things took a very, very, very dramatic turn.
Yeah. So, and that dramatic turn basically meant like you were bedridden.
Yeah. I got very severe all day.
Yeah.
All day long morning sickness.
Yeah.
That was so bad that I couldn't even like sit up and meditate in bed. Like I would feel like I was going to pass out or throw up if I did that. And eventually all my favorite fruits started coming back up. And the only thing that would stay in was fried potatoes.
Yeah.
I went from eating very like green, colorful, fresh, like actually mainly raw in many ways diet to just like fried potato.
Granola bars.
And granola bars.
Yeah.
And
Oats
like
and honey.
not being able to do anything. If I managed to have a shower in the day, that was like incredible.
A victory.
To make it down the stairs and shower. And
yeah, so for that reason I felt again, from the 6 weeks of at the end of 2021 that we had when we lived in the same town, we were away from each other, and now we lived between January 1st and March 15th, my birthday. It was visiting each other here and there every 2 weeks or so for like a long weekend basically, and now there we are. I was like, I want to make the best of the time that we still have left, just the two of us, before it's three of us. And suddenly felt like you were unavailable.
Please don't cuddle me or I'll be sick.
Yeah. And even like, so that was one thing. I mean, there's definitely a lot that we could say about that, but physically, you needed space, right? And
but I think it's like physical space as well as the emotional space. One of my friends, when I was kind of deep in the first trimester and feeling very, very depressed, actually, like to suddenly have like all my work that I loved having to be let go of, like any practice that I had, any things that I loved to do just suddenly not doable anymore. And just feeling so horrendous in my body. Like suddenly this body is not my body anymore, and I don't want to be in it. Like it's actually so uncomfortable to be in this body. And I would say it's the most physically challenging experience I've had so far in my life in this body. And I've broken bones, had operations, things. But I was speaking to a friend who given birth just over a year before, and she was like, oh yeah, the first trimester is like the underworld. And so it was also this like going into some of the deeper shadows and darkness that I'd experienced in this process that I'd always thought was meant to be one of the most blissful of your life, and not knowing how to deal with that or to share that with a partner who I've only been with for just over 3 months. Like how do you share like some of your deepest like darkness with someone who you haven't built those foundations of a relationship, like say a conscious relationship that you've been in for a year or 2 years or 5 years.
Yeah. So therefore you didn't. You didn't, and that's obviously okay because you had your process. But I guess I wasn't prepared for that, and I had through quite a journey and many relationships that I'd been in, many of which I was a terrible communicator in. That resulted in the demise of relationships because I would not communicate to then realizing, okay, I got to transform this and eventually becoming a pretty decent communicator and like really communicating all the time about everything and just sharing, right? I realized, a landmark forum leader really inspired me one time when there was somebody, a participant sharing how like they just fell out of love with her husband and how like they got divorced and the forum leader said, you didn't fall out of love, you just stopped sharing. And since then, I remember really appreciating the importance of sharing, right? Like it's the things it's when we don't feel that we can share something with our partner, in my opinion, that it starts to create distance. And I would say that I think, and I have seen like couples separate because there was somebody felt either too much shame or embarrassment to share something, and eventually they just rather walk out from the relationship than share that, or they start sharing that with somebody else that they feel they do have the space to share that with because they don't feel the partner would give them that space, right? So that's where the concept of radical honesty comes from. You don't just share anything openly, and I think I really embraced that. So now here we were, both of us in probably like the biggest process of our lives, going from just two people to like, hey, we're gonna be parents together, and like we don't even know each other that well. I know I have this beautiful soul connection with you that has me be like head over heels in love with you, but like I don't really know what you like. I don't really know you that well. We've been friends, so we did know each other a bit. We had a lot of respect and
maybe you're
honor for each
secretly
other.
crazy, and now actually it looks like you might be with all these hormones.
Tell me more about this nudist habit of yours. Like, what are its boundaries? And that's I don't know if that's okay to. So anyway, the bottom line was that I was like, okay, well, physically we can't connect that much, but okay, we can definitely talk and communicate. And it turns out you weren't quite available for that either. And not only, did you feel certain heaviness in your body when the conversation got too deep, and maybe these two kind of played into each other, but also, as you said, like we just didn't have that foundation of connection and communication in that depth. So for me, it was very challenging because I felt sort of alone, and then I felt shame around my emotional response because I was like, why am I making this about me? Like she's the pregnant one, she's the one that needs looking after. And
meanwhile, I was feeling like intense shame, which I feel like maybe other women can relate with as well. This very deep shame that in this time that we're told should be the best time of our lives, like the happiest time of your life. You've conceived a child, like new life, purpose as a woman, like one of them is being like fulfilled. And instead feeling one of the heaviest and darkest and saddest, even though I felt a full yes for the journey. But feeling so depressed because my body was just uninhabitable, and so a lot of shame around that. And I think when we have large amounts of shame, it becomes very hard to connect and share because it's like we're hiding something we feel like is dirty or that shouldn't be seen or that we should process. Well, at least I know for me, my pattern has been, okay, well, this is my stuff. I need to process it by myself. And when it's like neat and processed, then I can share it so this other person doesn't have to be burdened with what I'm carrying, because that's not for them to carry. So it was a rapid learning between the two of us. And I feel like it really kind of was like this up leveling in gears where baby was like, okay, like you're kind of done like messing around with like the beautiful like romance and stuff. Like, let's get down to business. Like, there's some deeper purpose between you that you need to fulfill. So let's fast track.
Yeah.
And let's like bring everything up to the surface. And even now, like, we continue to kind of like have these very deep and beautiful processes together, which feel like it's preparing us for the next step of our journey. But I feel like it's definitely because baby is coming, and actually he's been wiggling a lot in this interview. That it's like almost a different perspective on how we process things. Like, at least that's what I've experienced for myself. It's like, wow, the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I actually have to really get my shit together. Like, okay, this is going on. Like, I need to look at this and move into it and not run away, and like allow more and more layers of self to be seen and to be in partnership. And I feel like I've learned so much from you around that as well. It's been huge fast track for both of us. And
definitely for both of us, because in that time, as you said, you're basically depressed, and I didn't even know it. You know, I was just like, well, you know what, like, why won't she share with me? I don't know, and feeling like I don't even really know this person that well anymore, you know. And I think at one time I had an emotional moment where I kind of came clean to you, and still feeling bad about basically putting another burden on the table with our relationship. But I was like, I miss my girlfriend, you know. Like, I don't, it's like she disappeared, and now I have this other person that I also love, but it's like, I guess I feel like I'm mourning or grieving the loss of the other one, you know, the one that was bubbly and joyful and, and very affectionate and passionate. And now I have this one. I mean, I don't want to say, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but I mean, hey, we're human, you know. There was nothing wrong with this one, and again, even I'm saying it this way because I'm illustrating also like the shame that I felt around not feeling like I didn't have the space for you just to not be available, because there was a rational part of my brain that said, well, you know, she's obviously the same person. She's just nauseous all day long. He told me it's like being car sick really badly and all day, just nonstop. And
not knowing when or where your final destination is. You can't get out.
Yeah, and then the days continuing to pass by, you're hoping to feel better, and then you don't. And the weeks continue to pass by, you're hoping to feel better, and then you don't. Then the months continue to pass by, you're hoping to feel better, and then you don't. And it was like 2.5 months, almost 3, that you were basically in bed. So,
and I think something else that was quite interesting, just kind of going back to what you just shared, and I feel like it might be relevant for some other people, because when we spoke to Des and James, they actually kind of had resonated with that, about how, like, in my mind, I was kind of like, how can he just be focused on the relationship? Like, we have a baby that's growing and he's not thinking anything about the baby. Like, and meanwhile, in my mind, all I can think about is the baby and the journey for each of us, like the transformation from maiden to mother, and from, like, I don't know how you reference it in the man world, because I feel like boy to man is another journey, but in some ways it's also
from man
encompassed
to father.
in this.
Yeah.
Night to father. Yeah. And it's like, why is that not this huge thing at the forefront of his
why
mind?
Am I not sharing about
all he can think about is romance. When there's no romance right now.
And that was an interesting dynamic. So I'll speak to that one in a moment, but I guess to wrap up the the last point, a big point of growth for me was to just give space to all of that. I remember thinking like, okay, there's a part of me that wants all these things, all these moments of connection, emotionally, physically, verbally, and I don't get them, and that's okay. You know, like it's okay. Thankfully, it made a difference that I had certain people in my community that I could reach out to via phone. So shout out to Alex and Daniel, you know, who were both parents and were both there for me, to just kind of confirm like, okay, well, that's the process, you know, like you gotta like learn to be okay with that. So that was good. And then to your point, yeah, I kept addressing the relationship because for me, I guess it's a masculine thing where it feels like, yeah, the baby, like we're just gonna take care of the baby, like that's handled, you know. Like all we gotta do is deal with things as they come. Some of them we're gonna deal with them ahead of time. We're gonna be well prepared. Some of them we're not gonna be prepared for at all, and they're gonna take us by surprise, and we're just gonna deal with them. And that's what you do in life. You deal with it. You do the best you can at every moment. You know, we're gonna do that, and the baby's gonna be okay. Now, what I'm really worried about is who's this woman that I'm having a baby with, you know? And like, are we going to get along well? Or is this how the rest of my life is going to go? Where like, I got to give up any idea of deep soul connection with the mother of my child, you know? And sure, that was more of a concern for me in my mind and in my heart. So, yeah, that was an interesting journey for both of us to navigate through. So yeah, and then it took a lot of effort from both of us, I think, to start to create a bridge from where we were towards each other. And I remember, okay, I'm just going to go for it. I was like, do I say this? What did you say?
What are you going for?
Yeah. I shared this in the men's circle I was in, a men's circle that I created recently, and they seem to like really appreciate it, and because I guess it's relatable, you know, and maybe it provides something for the listeners here, where it was really interesting, right? So going back to sexuality, I had been celibate for 1 year, right? Then entering this beautiful connection with you. And then like beautiful sexual connection as well. And then all of a sudden it's like sex was off the table. And I remember you making a comment one time saying like, oh, it's just like, you know, like before I came around, you know, kind of saying that it shouldn't be that hard. And in a way I was like, damn, she's right. Like why is it so hard if I was able to be celibate for a year, like why can't I just? And then I had a lot of shame around this. Like why is there such a desire that I can't seem to tame, that seems to like have a grip on me, that has me really feeling unloved if it's not met. Like why is that there? Why can't I just tell that desire like, hey, settle down, like she's not available for now, let's put you on pause, we'll pick up like 3 months from now, 9 months from now, whenever. It didn't work that way, you know, and I tried. This is what I talked to Daniel about, and he's like, I know exactly what you mean, you know, like for me, we just spooned, you know, I called it spoon feeding. You know, That's the only way I got to feed that desire. So yeah, then one of the processes that I went through, part of the growth process for me, was to learn to not shame my desires and just learn to accept the humanity in me around that. It was like before that there was like some standard that I needed in me where that stuff was just like not there. Maybe so for some men it isn't there. Maybe for some men they do have a pause button, but I just wasn't one of those people. It was like, okay, like there's a huge desire to be met in that way, like and it's had me really sad and feeling lonely to not have that. So what worked well was to just communicate about that. I think that was kind of step one. And I remember sharing with you, well, I'm finding that it is different than when I was celibate. When I'm celibate, it's kind of just me by myself, and sure, I'm in my heart, I'm in my center, and it's beautiful in there. And part of the journey that took place with me while in Costa Rica is to, I guess, prepare to be able to create a heart connection with somebody else. Whereas before, I wasn't really fully opening my heart in the relationships in the past. And what I found was that in opening my heart to you fully in the way that I did, there's something else that opens there too, which is, I guess, the channel through which that beautiful physical connection was happening. So that was the difference, is that when I was celibate, that door was just closed. I didn't need to open it or connect through there with anybody else. It was just me with me, and it was beautiful. So I was like, okay, well, we don't need to have sex, but maybe there is something we could do. And it took all the development I've had or done in my life to just kind of be through that whole process, but it definitely took a level up from there to approach you in the following way, which was me asking you, hey, do you think that you can basically just hold space or watch me self-pleasure? And I was so nervous to ask you that. And perhaps because also we were early into our relationship. But you were so kind and you really responded from your heart, and if I remember correctly, you even appreciated that I did that.
Yeah, no, I appreciated it very deeply. And I actually felt my heart open deeper in that moment and in that holding process as well. And it was actually a big relief for me as like a solution, because like at the time I was just so sick, and when we tried like making love, it was very beautiful in the moment, but I would often feel even worse afterwards, like just completely collapse into like sleep and more nausea. And so it was like this incredible invitation into a very like intimate connection with yourself, while also finally being able to give something that like, because I also, it was like very hard to be receiving so much and not be able to give anything. And like that also was very shameful for me. Like I have this amazing man who's like bringing me whatever food I can actually stomach, making fried potatoes all day long, and and just being the most incredible, like caring, present, just like generous hearted being. And like the pain of not being able to give you what you need and were needing, and suddenly to be able to, and to feel actually a very, very deep connection in sharing that space with you, that was like very nourishing for both of us. And to feel the vulnerability that had to come for you to ask. And so it was very special, and I think also gave me the invitation, which like now I feel the ripples of kind of like, not problem solving, but I guess you could call it that in some way of like navigating like conflicting needs, from a place of kind of seeing, well, like what is possible. And I really appreciated that you actually came up with that and asked for it. And it's like, okay, well, like maybe this can work. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. Yay. And so that felt very special actually, and very like sacred in a way, to be allowed into that space, and to just hold you. I remember holding you and just feeling so much love move through my heart, like wow, this man is just incredible. He's so beautiful and amazing, and this is incredibly special.
It's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. It was very special for me as well, and I really felt that you cared. I felt your love, because that was kind of one of the things that I dealt with. Was like, oh, like she doesn't care, because I know she's nauseous, but you know, like she doesn't seem interested in even seeing what might be available, you know. And then I realized, oh, I'm the one that can take that initiative, you know. And you were so willing to check that out, and it wound up opening a little doorway to more and more connection. So that was beautiful, and I knew it felt important for me to connect with you in that way. I didn't want to channel that energy in different ways, you know. Like I remember I kind of just pleasured myself on my own one day, and it was okay. Like that just didn't replace what I was wanting with you, you know. And yeah, I also learned a lot about myself around that, you know. Like it turns out that, you know, physicality is like a strong love language for me, it seems, you know. And that has been my experience, that's really tied to my heart, you know. Like the most loving moments I've experienced with you, maybe there's a couple other moments as well, but for the most part it's been during lovemaking and or intimate moments like that, you know. So I really appreciate it to be able to connect with you in that way. And in a way, this is actually how I shared it with a friend, that throughout this whole first trimester, this early stage of pregnancy, I was feeling like I needed to connect with you, needed to strengthen our foundation, and then being disappointed because I was feeling like you weren't available to take that on with me, and that I wasn't able to do that. And in fact, it was dealing with all those elements, that whole environment, that's what strengthened our foundation more than anything that I could have imagined. You know, going to those places of deep vulnerability and sharing that depth of what we're dealing with and what each other needs and what each other's going through. So yeah. Now here we are. Is there anything else you wanna share? And as we start to wrap up the pregnancy journey, I mean, it feels short. I mean, an hour already went by, but yeah, I almost feel like we've shared like half of what there is to share about the pregnancy journey. Is there anything else you'd like to kind of recap? What would be the other half of the pregnancy journey?
Gosh. I feel like there's so much. Maybe
Okay.
another couple of podcast episodes.
Yeah, we might just do another one then. Maybe we leave this one here and pick it back up.
It's quite fitting. We're just over halfway through the pregnancy. So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It's the first trimester. We're almost at the end of the second trimester.
Yeah, I think as well, just before we were coming in to do this, something very present in my mind was also just like, wow, it'll be so interesting to listen back to this a year from now, because once again our life will have so drastically changed, and just experiencing the speed at which things change when little ones come in, and the death that you have to go through in order to birth life, and how for me it's giving me such a deeper appreciation and compassion and understanding of my parents, and also of like all my sisters, my soul sisters who have been through pregnancy, and who I'm so grateful for now that I'm able to turn to, and looking back at their journeys and being like, oh my gosh, like I actually had no idea what they were going through or how to support them. And now I feel equipped in that way. I mean, I'm not through it yet, but there'll be so many more lessons, and just the journey of experience and how these natural processes, they are, I don't know, I feel like the elders are wisdom keepers for us in it. And like I feel like as well, just like a lot of what we've shared today is this process you've been on too with this journey, and how I feel very blessed as a woman that now there's so many resources coming out for us women going through this journey. And that was part of what really pulled me through those deep dark times in the beginning, was beginning to discover just how many other women out there had experienced severe pregnancy sickness and been in these very like deep dark portals with their body, and just kind of knowing that I was normal, that there were other women, and that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. But I feel like for men there's not really as much of that, and yet the man is also going through a death process. Like you said, he turns from the knight to the father, just as the maiden turns to the mother. And I feel like there's a real gift in you sharing actually a lot of this process for other men to connect with too, and just kind of, I guess, like putting that seed out there to the universe of that we all need that support. And we once had it in the villages where we lived much closer together, and like our elders were there to guide us and support us, and just even be there with their presence of knowing from a deep cellular place what that journey is. And so just I also want to share appreciation for you sharing as well, and sharing so intimately and vulnerably about how that journey's been as a man. And so I feel like there's so much more we could speak about, because there's so much in it for both of us.
Yeah. Well, let's do that. We'll do that in the next episode, and the next evolution of the pregnancy journey and our own growth as partners, creating that foundation. Thank you for those beautiful words. So we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you for coming back to the Love is Our Nature podcast and being an amazing guest.
Thank you.
I love you. I'm so happy to be in this journey with you, and I'm so excited to meet our tiny little boy when he comes out, and just very excited to play with him and hold him along with you. So
Swimming with him.
yeah,
He moves a lot. He's gonna be a little dancer like both his parents. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
I love you too, and thank you for saying yes every day to this journey, no matter how challenging some days can be or blissful they can be.
Well, same to
I
you.
love you very deeply.
Thank you for your patience with me and for giving space to my concerns and my needs as well while you were going through such a deep process of your own when you were the one and lots of need in that moment, you know. So I hope this episode provided something for you all listening. Thank you for listening, for sitting there or being there as you drive, as you are doing what you do, and tuning in with us. It feels quite intimate to share with you, and I'm happy that we got to connect with you in this way. And if there's anything you want to share with us, you can share it with me via email or anywhere on Instagram or Facebook, and we'd be happy to be in touch. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you very much. We love you. And until next time. Bye-bye.
That is all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for being a valued listener. If you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the podcast in whatever your favorite platform is. You can also watch the video version of the episode on the Love is Our Nature YouTube channel. Check out loveisOurNature.com as well. That's where you can see our latest news and most recent content. If you enjoyed the episode, leave a review, share it with your friends, or email me. I love hearing what you took away for yourself out of listening. My email is Cesar@loveisOurNature.com. That's CESAR, or Cesar, like my mother says it, at loveisOurNature.com altogether. Till next time, I'll be here rooting for you. And remember, whatever the question, love is the answer.